All right, so you're watching this video probably because you're really seriously thinking about buying your first firearm, and you're new to firearms. Maybe you're over 40, or you're even much older. Like for me, I was 59 when I bought my first firearm, and it was a handgun. I'd never owned a handgun. Didn't know anything about it. I knew I wanted one, and I had a reason. So we're going to talk about that process, what it was like for me, and maybe I can shed some light on pulling back the curtain on really what are some good strategies you could have to make it an enjoyable process in picking out your first handgun. Now, I'm going to give you some tips, but then I'm going to share the number one tip last on what's going to make the whole process way less stressful. So, first off, what's your why? Why do you want a handgun? Why do you want a handgun? If that's what you want. Maybe you are not sure if you want a handgun or a rifle or a shotgun. Well, YouTube is a great source of getting information about firearms, your local gun stores, if you have those. You probably know some folks that are into firearms, and I know they would want to share with you. I know if you're local to me, I would want to share that information with you, and I would, I personally would love to be kind of like your guide through this process where I'm helping, but you're making all the big decisions. That's really, really fun. That's one of the things I do as I get people into the hobby. At this outdoor gun range, I invite people to shoot all the time, and really it's almost become a ministry where I am meeting with other men, fellowshipping, and I'm creating deeper connections with other men, the Lord, our spouses, our children, our grandchildren. For me, it's kind of morphed into this really cool ministry that I'm involved in now. And so I probably host 4 guys or families out here in a week, and it has been so rewarding. So for me, that's where I am now. I got into firearms 3 years ago. No military background. No. It was the concealed weapons permit class that I took before I purchased a handgun. That class, I was 58, I believe, years old. That class was the first time I had ever touched a handgun, period. Didn't know a magazine from a book to a revolver to a whatever. Had no idea how to operate it. The concealed weapons permit instructor showed me how, and I understood the concept of lining up sights, and somehow passed. So, and it kind of took off from there. So, getting back to what's your why, what's your purpose for having a firearm? I mean, is it for self-defense? Is it protecting yourself and your loved ones and your family? Is it something that you have a job where you feel comfortable, or you would feel more comfortable if you had access to a firearm just to be safe? You know, there's that old saying, better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And that is kind of a trite saying, but I mean, it's kind of true. So whether you're over 40, new to handguns, stay tuned. We're going to talk about this process of buying a handgun. So one of the things that I did was I visited several gun stores, and so they're not all created equal. Some are really, really good. Some are like big box stores, and so it's really hard to build relationships with those guys because they're very, very busy. The smaller, locally owned private gun dealers are great to work with, and they're able to provide some personalized help and answer questions. And so you've got the internet, you've got GunTube, which is all these gun influencers on YouTube, and they are a great resource. So what's your why? What are you going to use the gun for? Those are going to be some things that the salesperson behind the counter is going to be asking you. You're probably, so you could, if it's legal in your state, and of course I don't know where you are while you're watching this, so make sure you know and obey, state, federal, local laws regarding gun ownership or carrying a gun or transporting a gun. Know your laws. Let me hop into concealed weapons permit training. You can get a lot of questions answered about what's legal, even though those guys and gals are not attorneys. They are trained to teach in your jurisdiction a class that's going to allow you to have a permit to carry a weapon. Even if your state is a constitutional carry, which means that isn't required, I really recommend, almost everyone recommends that you go ahead and get that training, especially if you are brand new to guns. So if you're like me and you're looking to buy a firearm and you've never shot one before, oh my goodness, that is a heavy thing. That is serious. That is very, very personal. And with it being such a great responsibility, go ahead and get that training with the concealed weapons permit class, and then practice and get more training on. Maybe you'll want to take a basic pistol class, or you'll want to take a basic rifle class or shotgun. Those are going to be offered that you're not even aware of, because this hasn't been on your radar screen, but chances are good that somewhere near you that is being offered. So keep those things in mind. So when choosing a firearm, and by the way, I'm going to share my why. So I was at an open house, and 3.5 years ago, log cabin on acreage. Was very, very concerned with my safety for the first time holding an open house, and I realized, I've got to be intentional on taking care of myself, protecting myself and my family. I need to be able to make sure I get home after, from work. So I tend to, when I'm with a client or working, I'm wearing a bow tie, pants, shirt tucked in. So this Smith & Wesson Bodyguard was my first gun. It's chambered in .380. So you've probably heard of a 9mm. So that's probably the most carried caliber of bullet. That's the very, very, very popular, very plentiful. .380 is kind of a smaller, less powerful round. It's still deadly. But for me, I needed something that was going to fit in my front pocket, because when I'm with a client, I'm not going to open carry. And my shirt's tucked in, so I can't have my shirt out. So I need something in my front pocket. So I didn't bring the little holster, but I actually have a little holster this goes into, and then it just goes sliding in like this. So that's the Bodyguard, the first Bodyguard. I bought this years later. It's not much, it's actually a better handgun. So this is a little Kydex holster, fits right in there, clicks, and then this goes straight in my pocket, and I'm able to just pull it out like that, and it's has worked great for me. So that was my why when I went to buy a gun 3 years ago last month. That was my first gun. Smith & Wesson Bodyguard original. The 2.0, much, much, much better. So you've got some other choices as far as, you want to pick a reliable name brand. And once you've had these for a while, you use them, you shoot them, and you practice, they're going to malfunction, or they might actually break. And if you can't fix it, if you are working with a reputable manufacturer, you can call them and get them on the phone, and it's unbelievable. Someone answers who lives in the continental United States, and they help you. So this Smith & Wesson, even if you're 40, 50, 60, you probably heard of Smith & Wesson. Very, very reliable guns, guaranteed for life. Now, if I use this as a hammer and break it, that's not warranted. That's not guaranteed. But this one, I've had to send it back twice. And so I called them, talked to them about what's going on. They tried to help me find a solution to fix it myself, or maybe it just needs to be tweaked or something. But then if they need to see it, they send me a shipping label. I send the firearm to them. They fix it. They mail it back. Easy peasy. It might take 6 weeks, but the fact that they stand behind their product is great. Smith & Wesson, very, very reliable. I think we've all heard of a Glock too, unless you've been under a rock. So this is a trusty Glock. So let me say something I noticed about Glocks, and if you're over 40, you're going to find this to be shocking if you're new to firearms, but not one Glock has a built-in manual safety. So for example, this one, which is this is a Sig Sauer, also very, very reliable 365. This has a thumb safety. So you can see this going up and down. So even though we didn't own handguns in my house, I think we had one shotgun, but my aunts and uncles all hunted. And so we would go out there and shoot a 22 rifle or a shotgun, and they all had manual safeties. And there was the stress of, hey, make sure the safety's on. Is your safety on? Check your safety. Put your safety on before you shoot somebody. So let me tell you, when I started looking at guns, and who hasn't heard of a Glock? The story behind Glock is amazing. They revolutionized handguns, unreal. But not one Glock has a thumb safety. Not one Glock. You can't buy them. You cannot buy them with a gun, with a manual safety. Yikes. What in the world? Well, through training and practice, you're going to realize that really every gun needs to live in a holster. And if you have a good holster, quality holster, don't buy a $500 gun and get a $10 holster. Buy a holster, a Kydex or plastic holster made for that gun that fits in there and clicks. And that keeps the gun safe. Because what keeps the gun safe is protecting the trigger so that the trigger isn't accidentally pulled. Now, because I'm old, I have a lot of guns with the manual safety. That's kind of a backup, so that if this trigger is accidentally pulled, then with the safety being on, the gun's not going to go bang. So love that feature. But over time, I learned to be happy with and learn how to function with a firearm with no manual safety. So as far as your first handgun, make a decision about do you want a manual safety or not? Are you going to want to buy the most expensive handgun, or are you going to want to buy the cheapest handgun? I wouldn't recommend buying the cheapest handgun, because it could be that they're the cheapest thing for a reason. So when buying a handgun, you can buy a Bentley or a Rolls-Royce. You could buy a Pacer, or you could buy a Chevy. So, and maybe even an upgraded Chevy with some bells and whistles. So it's going to be value, and that's based on the product and the price and the reliability of the gun, the responsibility of the manufacturer. Are they going to stand behind their guns? So I showed a couple of SIGs. I got the Glock. This is so Palmetto State Armory is based outside of Columbia. I am a big fan of Palmetto State Armory. So this is their dagger. So when you're shooting a gun like this, you've got like this Glock, you got front and rear sights. You'll learn to line up the sights, hit your target. That's not what this is a video about. But we can do one later, or you can watch some videos. But this is an optic red that has a red or green dot in it that's been sighted in, that matches up these sights, so that instead of trying to have this sight go and be inside this one and then my target and all the things, that there's a red dot in this one, and the red dot needs to be hovering over whatever my target is, and then if I can have a nice clean trigger press, I should hit that target every single time. So this is a Palmetto State Armory Saber dagger. So I bought this, I was so excited, I thought it's really, really pretty. And I shot it immediately. You know, so in the store, I pick it up, I go around to the gun range and shoot the gun, and something's not right. I get one of the range guys, hey, check this thing out, I just bought it. And they're like, yeah, something's wrong with it. So Palmetto State Armory, man, their stuff is guaranteed for life. So I took this to the counter. They accepted it and sent the gun off to their factory that makes the daggers, which is right outside of Somerville, which is where I bought the gun. So what's really cool as far as customer service is that the guy, in this case it was a guy who repaired the gun, he actually took a video of himself shooting the gun at the range there at the factory, and then he texted me the video, and then we had a cool texting back and forth, and it was like so cool that they would do that for a customer. So Palmetto State Armory, they stand behind their stuff. Smith & Wesson does too. I've sent things back to them. Sig Sauer, I have sent, I have more than several of their 365 line, and I've had one or two issues. I've had to send one back, and then I've had questions about others. And just the other day, I had some issues with this 22 caliber semi-automatic pistol, and this is really what I start. If I love bringing people into the hobby and inviting them to the gun range and kind of showing them how to shoot. And so we tend to start off with this 22 caliber semi-automatic from Sig Sauer because it doesn't have a lot of recoil. 22 caliber is much smaller. This is a great gun to learn on. Great gun. So I had a problem with rounds not ejecting, and so I called Sig Sauer. They answered the phone and they talked me through this. It was unbelievable service. Now, going back to price, man, if you're buying this for self-defense, I don't know if you're going to want to buy the cheapest gun out there for you to put your life in that gun's hands. That your life would depend on. Actually, your life will depend on the gun you buy and the level of training that you have. If you decide that that's what you're going to use to defend yourself and your family. So we've got very small caliber, 22 caliber, very light recoil, easy to use. And then above that is we've got the like this little Smith & Wesson bodyguard that shoots a 380. So this is very small, but really has a nice bigger grip. So it has a 380 round, which is a little bit smaller and less powerful than the 9mm. So the majority of these pistols that I've been holding up are 9mm. Very plentiful. not as expensive as some of the other rounds. Is going to be more expensive than 22 caliber for sure, but there are more 9mm handguns out there than anything else. The other option you have is a revolver like this one. So this is easy peasy. This is put the bullets in this cylinder. This one holds 5, and there's not even a hammer to cock back. It's just point and shoot. Very, very simple, very simple. So that's one of the things to be thinking about. If you're new to firearms, or you're over 40, or you have issues with your hands, like arthritis in this hand, surgeries, there's some guns that I find very, very difficult to rack the slide back, that you must be able to learn how to do. And depending on the gun, the bigger the gun, the easier it is to operate, period. The bigger the gun, the less felt recoil. It will not sting your hand. Shooting this gun, even though it's a smaller bullet, it's a 380, which is smaller than a 9mm, this will hurt your hand. This hurts my hand, and I've shot it a lot. It hurts. So, something to think about. The larger the gun, the less recoil. If it doesn't hurt your hand, and if you are able to physically operate the gun and you're practicing, it's going to go a long way to getting you very, very proficient. So we want you to be a responsible gun owner. So if you're going to buy a handgun, if you're going to buy a firearm, a shotgun, a rifle, we're going to want you to practice, to get training, to learn, to become proficient. These are deadly weapons, and you know, the thought of you buying a handgun and it's sitting in the top of your closet in case there's an emergency, and then you go get it, you know, someone kicks in your front door, you run, get this gun out of its box that's you know, under the mattress or on top of the closet. That is not the time for you to have your first time shooting that gun. So that is something to think about. Be a responsible gun owner. Practice, train, and practice. Now, the thing is that you're going to probably find that as you go to gun ranges, you find an indoor, outdoor gun range, or you know someone that has property, assuming that it's legal for you to be carrying or owning, you know, whatever particular firearm you're using, the opportunities for fellowship and friendship and making friends and having fun and doing competitions, all those are possibilities that make it so enjoyable. So you kind of narrow down the manufacturer. You kind of know what you want the gun to be used for. What's its purpose? What's your why? So the big thing is going to be based on your hand size and hand strength. That you know, this has a very big, wide grip. This one is smaller. This one is short and squatty and kind of stocky. So many options. Even with revolvers, really different sizes. So for you, what are the ergonomics? How does it fit in your hand? Is the slide too difficult? If you want a semi-automatic and the slide's too difficult, what are some options? So Smith & Wesson makes a M&P EZ slide in several models, and this slide is like butter, very easy to manipulate. So you've got manufacturer, you've got caliber, you've got the size, you've got ergonomics, you've got your ability to manipulate the gun. The next thing is going to be your ability to maintain the gun, to clean the gun. So are you going to be cleaning the gun? Are you going to send it somewhere to be cleaned? I know some of the big box stores have a service that you can pay for whenever you buy the gun, where they will maintain the gun for you. I find it enjoyable to maintain it myself, but it kind of depends on your comfort level. And then, is your gun customizable? Can you decide to put an optic on it so that you're not having to line up your sights? Well, you need to be thinking about that when you buy the gun, because this Glock does not have a place to put an optic. Do you have a place to put a flashlight if that is something you wanted? Different things to think about. If you really get good at it and you want to get a new trigger, or change out a grip, or change out anything on the gun, is that a gun that lends itself to that? Because really, with a lot of these pistols and rifles, it's almost like having a Lego set. You can really change parts, improve things, make them easier to operate. And then, of course, you've got your budget. You've got the Lexus or the Mercedes, and then you've got the Yugo, and it's the value. Be thinking about that. For your first gun, budget matters, and that plays a big part. And so that's where I rely on. Once I have it narrowed down, you can probably get some pretty good advice from the guys or gals behind the gun counter. So, kind of summarizing here, we've talked about what's your purpose, what are you going to use it for, what's your why, is the manufacturer, is that pistol reliable, does the manufacturer stand behind their product, is the gun simple enough for you to use, can you operate it, have you chosen a caliber that you think is appropriate for you, how does it fit in your hand, what are the ergonomics, after you shoot it a couple of times, does it rub a certain part of your hand? A lot of gun ranges have guns for you to rent that you can shoot there, and you can kind of see how it feels in your hand. If you have a friend that's into firearms, they would probably take you shooting. Remember to maintain your gun, to take care of it, and it could be that you want a gun that you can change things out on and kind of make it your own. So that's a thought when choosing a gun. Of course, budget is big, and then get training, practice, and it's a fun hobby. It has deepened my relationship with my friends and family. It's connected me with other men, because a lot of us tend to go to work, and then when we go home, we're thinking about work. We're thinking about providing for our family, and sometimes we are so focused on that, we end up not connecting with our family. We're not connected the way we want to be or should be with our spouse, our children, or our grandchildren. Training. Be aware of what's legal in your jurisdiction, in your town, your state. Whether it's carrying the gun, owning a gun, is there certain types of guns? Does your state or ordinance or a city have ordinance about how many bullets can be in a magazine? That how many bullets can your gun hold according to state or local laws? Be aware, and of course, be safety conscious. Learn the rules about being safe at the gun range. I think you'll, the more safe you are, the more fun you'll actually have. Know what the safety rules are, like always treat a handgun like it's loaded. If someone checks a handgun and opens the slide to demonstrate, even for you, and then they're going to do this at a gun store and hand you the gun, you're going to assume it's loaded, and I'm going to recommend that you check to make sure it's empty. And even though you know it's empty, you're going to treat it like it's loaded, and you're going to point it in a safe direction. So at the gun range, safe direction is towards the back berm. At this gun range, there are particular rules. about when is a gun safe. So a gun is safe when the slide is locked back and it's laying down on a table, or if it's in your holster or bag. That's when guns are safe. When you're shooting, you're going to make sure you identify your target. If you can't identify your target, you're not going to shoot it. You're going to know what's in front of your target, what's behind your target. Because if you miss, where's that bullet going to go? So at this gun range, you're aiming downrange towards that back berm, and so you know that there's nothing that's going to be hurt or damaged if you shoot at a target and miss. I think assuming the gun is loaded could be one of the most important things to always remember, and always have the gun pointed, whether it's a pistol, rifle, shotgun, it should always be pointed in a safe direction, and nothing should be near the trigger. Fingers should be the trigger, near the trigger. Any other object should not be near the trigger unless you've presented the gun and are ready to shoot. Then the finger goes in the trigger guard and you're ready to shoot. All right, the number one thing for buying your first gun is to remember that it's just your first gun. You're just buying your first gun. Let that take the pressure off, because it is very difficult, if not impossible, to find one gun that is going to solve all your potential problems for the rest of your life. So for me, I have this very small, snappy 380. The Smith & Wesson High Guard was the first handgun I purchased and used. Very snappy, hurts your hand to shoot it. Eventually I wanted to get to the point where I am carrying a handgun that's easier to operate, that's easier to shoot. And so I bought my second handgun, and then I bought my third, and so on. So not that you're going to have, X number of handguns, but just remember your first handgun is your first handgun. Get really good at using that first handgun. That is really going to be a special gun for you forever. So get used to it and realize that it could be that as you get into this hobby and as you get proficient, you're just going to want a better gun, or a smaller gun, or a different caliber, or maybe your first firearm's a pistol and the next one's a shotgun. So many things to think about, but I think if you spend some time researching, talking to knowledgeable people, visiting different gun stores, being aware of the gun stores or even pawn shops near you. One of the things I did, there's a great pawn shop that really sells quality new and used firearms. And the used firearms, the handguns, are so clean and pristine that I really do not mind buying a used handgun. So get out there, have some fun, be safe, and congratulations on making this decision to purchase your first firearm. I wish you well. I know that it is a serious, very personal thing. I know that you might have friends, co-workers, family that are like, hey, you're 40 years old. What? You're 40, you're 50. Hey, you're 60 years old. What do you need a handgun for? Well, let me just say, if you thought about it and counted the cost and you're ready to become a responsible gun owner and start this new fun hobby, congratulations. I think you're going to love it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.